The hampered Indianapolis Colts head to Seattle for a big-time matchup with one of the best teams in football. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks. Welcome to Locked On Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network around. Again, I'm Zach Hicks, your favorite resident film nerd here over at horseshoehuddle.com. And today I'm joined by Alan Pinkett, former Notre Dame running back, former Oiler in the NFL. And look, we're starting to call some guys out of retirement, Alan. I think you're going to be the next guy to get the call for the Colts this week. But looking at this Colts team, we're going to dive into a bunch of injuries. We're going to dive into, obviously, again, we can't go a second without talking about Phillip Rivers, talk about the Seahawks, and we'll close it out with our final thoughts heading into this game and the rest of the season. But Alan Pinkett, if you guys listen to the Colts Squad show that we do twice a week, Alan and I have a lot of fun banter on there. And we're going to dive into just this injury report real quick, Alan. Like, so many top players out for the Colts in this game. If you, again, the top 3 defenders, Mooney Ward is probably out for the year. Sauce Gardner not being back for this game. DeForest Buckner not activated for this game. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Braden Smith is going to miss this game as well with a concussion. Only the second game this year where a Colts starting offensive lineman has not played. So I already know what you're going to say, Alan. We always talk about this every week on the squad show. It's the next man up mentality, but like realistically, it's tough to overcome like these types of injuries, especially given who the opponent is this week.
No doubt about it. And I think you listed the top 3 I would consider as, really hurting the team. DeForest Buckner, I think, has just been such an anchor on the defensive line. And him gone, it really limits the Colts in terms of stopping the run. Sauce Gardner out when you already got Mooney Ward out. Really depletes the defensive backfield. And this is not the game where you want to be depleted in the defensive backfield when you've got the #1 leading receiver in Jackson Smith in Jigba coming out. I think I said his name correctly that time. But then on the offensive side, being down 1 offensive lineman, that just goes to the confidence you have as a quarterback. And we are anticipating Phillip Rivers starting. So how much confidence will he have dropping back with a backup at the right tackle? I think the only saving grace is the fact that, he can see pressure coming from his right side. He's going to be fine on his backside, and he'll be able to just, have some confidence that, his left tackle will be able to protect him well. But on that right side, the ball may just have to come out a little bit quicker. But, he's one of those quarterbacks, and we'll get to it a little bit more. He's one of those quarterbacks that doesn't really need a lot of time, because he depends on timing and accuracy and not athleticism. But all the injuries, really, the way they're mounting up, you can understand why the spread is where it is, because in today's NFL, you've got, usually your starter is the one who's making most of the money, is an exceptional athlete. And the backup is, the best person you can get at the NFL league minimum. And, it plays mostly on special teams.
Yeah, no, and speaking of that league minimum, the backups that we're looking at in this game, Adetomiwa Adebawore, a former draft pick who was a day 3 guy, pretty close to that vet minimum. Jalen Travis, the right tackle filling in for Braden Smith, a rookie day 3 pick around that league minimum. And obviously at cornerback, because they're just so depleted there, Jalen Jones, Mekhi Blackman, not really these high-profile free agents or anything like that. They're still young guys on those rookie contracts. So they're relying on a lot of younger players to step up in place of your star players in a lot of places. And we're not going to talk too much about this story because the whole week has been about this, but the Colts have not officially made an announcement on who is starting on Sunday. I think we're all of the opinion this is a little bit of gamemanship. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw both the quarterbacks at some point on Sunday. Like some packages, you get Riley Leonard out there to do a little bit more of like the RPO, RPR type stuff, have him use his legs a little bit. But for the most part, I think we are all anticipating 44-year-old Phillip Rivers to be the starter on Sunday, because like we said on the squad show the other day, Alan, like, you're not getting off the couch unless you're coming in here to start. You're like,
Yeah.
if you were just getting off your couch to be a mentor, you just sign as a coach. There's no other reason to sign in as a player and reset that Hall of Fame clock unless you're expecting to get out there as soon as this Sunday.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think I was swayed that way after you had mentioned it, that he wouldn't just be coming out of retirement, just to pat a guy on the back or give him encouragement. That doesn't make sense. And that's not Phillip Rivers' mentality. And I also saw that there's some, recognition in terms of there are 14 players on the current team that were on the team when he took them to a playoff appearance in 2020. So there's some familiarity there. They and I'm sure they have a lot of confidence. And just while we have a minute, I wanted to go back to those guys that are going to be starting in place of the people that are injured.
Yeah.
So important for them because they're looking at, expanding their longevity in the NFL. And you only get so many shots, to really prove to the front office that you belong, you deserve a second or a third contract. So if I was one of those backups, I would be excited. This is my opportunity to prove that I belong in the NFL. So, hopefully they can rise to the challenge. They're not going to be better than the starters. Otherwise, they would have already been extended. But it's an opportunity for them to shine, increase their value to the team, maybe increase their value to the league. So I expect those guys to really try to flash.
Yeah, no, Adebawore, Mekhi Blackman, and also Jalen Jones. We've seen a good bit of them this season. They are certainly vying for as many opportunities as possible because the NFL is not a developmental league. It's a league about results from day one. And if you're not given those results, they'll find someone else that's just as cheap as you to come in and fill that same role. So those guys who have been a little bit up and down this year, it's on those guys to perform. And then for Jalen Travis, maybe it's a little bit less pressure for him because he is a rookie. But still, a rookie year, like you only get so much run as a rookie, and that can determine how much run you get as a sophomore the next season. So Jalen Travis, I feel like even more so than the other guys too, with Braden Smith's contract being up at the end of the season and Travis being this young right tackle that has the size and the athleticism. If he puts together a good showing this week, it could lead to him potentially being that starter next season for the team at right tackle. But it all starts this week for him. So it's kind of like a no pressure thing because like, you're a day 3 rookie. We're going to see what you got. But it's also pressure because, like, if you step up, you might just earn yourself a big role and a big payday maybe in the future if you show out in this game.
And for a Jalen Travis, I look at the entire offense. If they can somehow be balanced, that's what's going to help him out even more. Now, if they throw the ball 50 times, he's going to be exposed. But I heard one of the nation's prognosticators saying, give that ball to JT 60 times. Well, and I know that's not going to work. That's not going to work. They are going to have to rely heavily on the run. But if they can balance this thing out, then they've got a shot. And that's going to help Jalen Travis because, if they can get away with maybe 30, 35 passes and, 25 to 30 runs, that's a good balance. Hopefully they're getting the results that they want, but it's not necessarily hiding him. But, I know big offensive linemen, they would prefer to run block. They prefer to have that flat back and go smash into somebody in front of them instead of retreating and punching and, getting in your right location and all that kind of stuff. And so really the offense as a whole can help Jalen Travis if they can get that proper balance.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a lot here coming up in segment 2, where I think you can actually have these guys run blocking on more snaps than not because you can have them in these quick, aggressive sets. If you're throwing the ball quick or if you're throwing screens or you're throwing quick slants. And when you have a guy like Travis, where the technique's not there, but the size and the physicality are there, having him just jumping defensive ends instead of retreating into these vertical sets and having to counter and move with these defensive ends, that is such a big difference. I've talked about a lot with Matt Gonsalves at right guard and how that's led to better success for him, where he's better when he's jumping a guy rather than having to be this technician. So I think the Colts can devise a game plan to help/hide Jalen Travis at right tackle, and that's always key when you're dealing with a young rookie. But coming up, guys, we are going to talk about the Colts offense in detail. Can they move the ball with Phillip Rivers, potentially Phillip Rivers, I guess, against one of the best defense in football, the defense that has 8 takeaways in their last 2 games, only 9 total points allowed the last 2 games. Can the Colts with Phillip Rivers move the ball on them and get some points on the board? But first, guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, those are over. There's no more walking it off for 6 months, no more pretending the weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and ZocDoc makes everything easier than ever because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or just eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. Using ZocDoc makes scheduling just so much easier. You search for your in-network doctors and book right there in the app. It makes it simple to keep your health a priority, even with a busy schedule like we all have here. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care that you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. And also, guys, car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence that you deserve. They cut through all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars that you want because it comes to a big purchase. You deserve that best deal. And Car Gurus gives you the whole process simple by giving you the real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anybody else. So you can shop the way that you want. Use Car Gurus deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether the price is actually fair. And their price drop alerts are a lifesaver because if you guys are like me, I like to get that lowest price as possible, especially when I'm shopping for cars. You get notified the second a car that you're watching becomes a better deal. Car Gurus connects you with a trusted dealerships for transparent and hassle-free buying process with over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace. You'll always find the best deal. Shop the way that you want with the tools, data, and unbiased deal ratings that make it easier. Buy or sell your next car today at cargurus.com. That's CARGURUS.com, cargurus.com. All right, Locked On Colts everydayers, we are back. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen of the day and today and every day. And thank you guys for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. I'm joined today by Alan Pinkett, talking all about this Colts Seahawks matchup. And we talked about the injuries in the first segment. We talked about the guys replacing those big time injuries. Now let's talk about this Colts offense a little bit, Alan. And one thing that's kind of been my intriguing point to kind of dive into with this Colts offense is the Colts this year have been pretty good under center when they've gone under center, right? They have been, they run under center about 31% of the time this year, which is a little bit below league average, but much higher than what it's been under Shane Steichen. And now you're putting in a 44-year-old quarterback. I'm not saying you have to be the greatest athlete in the world to operate under center, but I do think you need to have a baseline athleticism because if we're talking 5 and 7 step drops, that can be difficult for a 44-year-old person coming in here who's not in football shape. So I think this Colts team, again, that has been like 31% under center this year, I think they might revert back to kind of what they were in 2023, which was a 9% under center rate. Honestly, I would be shocked if it got up to 9% under center because I just think it's going to be difficult to operate the way the Colts have been operating this year under center, especially when you factor in like the bootlegs. Phillip Rivers is not going to go out there and run a bootleg out. Like I don't anticipate that happening. So I think we're going to see this Colts offense very different on Sunday. I think they're going to be mostly in the gun and doing like a lot of empty stuff and a lot of just like 11 personnel to kind of move the ball.
Well, you think about what happens when you're in the gun. It gives the quarterback maybe an extra second to survey the field, to be able to deliver the ball. It doesn't necessarily help the running game out that much. Yeah, I think when you're under center as a quarterback and coming back and and maybe faking the ball. That does a good job of holding the defense. I could see them on maybe a handful of occasions get under center and just do the fake so that they can hold the linebackers in. Because I think if he gets under center, I think defense automatically is going to assume run. Right. Because you're best running from the eye because you're coming downhill, as opposed to being in the shotgun where you're starting from a stationary position and then having to veer off to where you're supposed to go. So I think the play action can actually work well when they get under center, and that might be what they do. But I think the fact that the ball's going to come out quick is going to be to the benefit of the current wide receiving crew that the Colts have. I think these guys have all shown that when they get the ball in their hands, they can make plays. And the guy I'm excited about the most is Josh Downs. Just give him the ball in space and let him just continue to move the chains. And if they can do that, they can wear a defense out. So to me, I think that Phillip Rivers, as weird as it sounds, does give them a bit of a spark. I wouldn't say an advantage. I'll say a spark. And if the Colts can pull this off, it would be, nothing short of a miracle, be similar to Joe Flacco coming to the Bengals and beating the Steelers after being there for a couple of days.
Right. And I think it's really fascinating because you actually helped me make my next point here, where the Colts this year, we've seen career best numbers, or I guess best numbers from the positions that Alec Pierce play and their tight ends play under Shane Steichen, because they've been doing more 12 personnel, more under center stuff, and using play action to set up the deep ball to Alec Pierce, right? So we've seen Pierce go off for his best, on pace for his best season. The tight end group led by Tyler Warren has been getting a lot of receiver production, but as a result, we've seen Josh Downs posting the worst numbers of his career. He's not getting the consistent targets. He's not getting as many snaps this year because they're not in 11 personnel as much as they've been in the past. So I think with Phillip Rivers, if you're going to be in the gun a little bit more, maybe run a little bit more empty, that is where a Josh Downs really comes into play, because you're going to have him on more of these option routes, on more of these just isolated, spaced out routes where we want Phillip Rivers throwing this 5-yard pass and see if you can create an explosive play off this 5-yard pass. And that's what Josh Downs does best. Now, the only issue with this matchup is the Seahawks do tend to put Witherspoon in the slot sometimes. And he is a 1A corner in this league, just an absolute dog, a playmaker, really physical corner. They do like to move him around. And I think if the Colts come out early throwing the ball to Josh Downs, they might move Witherspoon inside just to take away that matchup a little bit. But I do think this matchup is really good for Josh Downs, where, again, you want to get that quickness going. You want to get that ball out of Rivers' hands and not be so reliant on the run, because even with Jonathan Taylor, you can't run the ball 60 times in the NFL to have success.
No, I always like to say ball ain't heavy. So give it to me as many times as possible. The most I ever ran it in a game, and this was way back in college, was 40 times. And I felt refreshed after the game, but doing it 40 times in the NFL, that is just not something that I would recommend to the best conditioned running back. So they're going to have to, run it more than they want to. But if they can run with results, then they're going to be okay. And now I think this also, if they're going to go more from the gun, it's going to force, their other two receivers. I think it would force Alec Pierce to, be a little bit better in his quick routes, break them off a little faster, give the quarterback a target. Although I see Phillip Rivers as a guy who likes to throw you open. If you're it used to be you needed to have a step on a DB to be open, but Phillip Rivers is that type of quarterback. If you got a half a step, you're considered open. Ball's coming. So I think the guys just have to be ready. And I think that if they can put together, enough short passes that move the sticks, that'll set up the opportunity to have Alec Pierce go over the top a handful of times. You still got to keep them honest. You still got to go deep a couple of times, but if they can have success with the short passing game and some runs, then they've got a shot at getting into the end zone a couple times.
Yeah, and we've seen with Alec Pierce in his career, like the deep ball doesn't need to be perfect. Just put it up there, So if old Uncle Phil here has to just shot put that ball down the field for 30 yards, Pierce still has a chance of getting it. We've seen him win those 50-50 balls. But yeah, I think it'll be a really interesting matchup. And I'm curious to see how the guys show up to play for potentially this 44-year-old quarterback. And to go on your point here real quick, not to run too late here on this segment, but if Rivers is this anticipation thrower, like you mentioned, like we covered him in 2020. We know what he looked like then. To do that, though, when you're in the program for 1 week, you didn't have the off-season training with these guys. Like, we could see either just a masterclass performance where he puts up 300 yards or like a 5-interception performance because you're throwing it where you think guys are going to be, and the chemistry is not there, which is so important with the offseason program and just how you build up chemistry throughout the early parts of the season. I mean, real quick, Alan, did you ever have a player like come into a prominent position late in the season like this when you played?
No, I do not recall that at all. And, developing rhythm between quarterback and receiver is a thing that really takes time. It's not something that you can conquer in a couple of days, but you never say never in this league.
Yeah, I mean, Phillip Rivers is one of one for a reason. He's on the Hall of Fame ballot for a reason. So maybe things will look a little bit different. But coming up, we're going to briefly talk about the defense and then dive into our overall thoughts on this game. Colts are riding, a 3-game losing streak right now, heading into a road game against one of the best teams in football. How can they bounce back out of this? We'll talk about that here in our final segment. But first, this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. The holiday season is one of the best times for sports, bowl games, big basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while we're all making the choices every single day, one of the most fun places to make the right call is with PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the easiest way to get in on daily fantasy sports. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, lock them into your lineup, and you're in the game. It's simple, fast, and available in 45 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. Creating a lineup takes less than a minute, and the app makes the whole process smooth and intuitive. The early payout feature is also just an awesome bonus. When your lineup starts strong, you get the option to cash out early, and someone like me who is just panicky, I'd probably take that option quite a bit. So download the PrizePicks apps today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Alrighty, Locked On Colts Everydayers, we are back putting a bow on a very hectic week in Indianapolis Colts land. If you guys have missed it, my partner in crime, Jake Arthur, is out this entire week because his wife gave birth to their second child. Great shout out to them, all the love in the world to them. But of course, Jake picked the busiest week of the year to be out because the Colts made the big move for Phillip Rivers after losing their starting quarterback for the year. The media circus has been all over the place this week, so I'm gonna have to get back at Jake for something, I guess, in the future. I'm gonna pick a busy week to peace out as well in the future. But we're giving all the love there, all jokes aside, all the love to Jake and them, and all the love to this Colts team, hoping they can break this 3-game losing streak. And Alan, back when you were playing in the NFL, losing streaks, even when you were on good teams, is not uncommon. Teams hit these lulls, they hit these ruts. Now, I don't know how often you had to go to the emergency quarterback to save you from those ruts, but what's it like in a locker room for players when you're in a rut like this, and then maybe like you have a tough, like they're 2-score, like the 2-score favorites against them. Like the Seahawks are favored by almost 14 points in this game. Like I know players say they don't read the media, they don't look, but like you're aware of what the perception is. So like when you're already kind of down on your luck, you're going against a tough opponent. What's it like for like a player, like mindset wise in that moment?
Well, I think it all depends on the culture in your locker room. If you got a lot of positive guys, then you can withstand the lulls because the lulls are going to happen. And you also know the lulls are temporary. Sometime another team or teams figure you out and you got to go back and self-scout and you got to come up with something new, or you got to be a little more detail oriented and execute a little bit better. But teams in the NFL figure you out. And so you got to have something in your back pocket to bounce back with. But if you have a culture where you have guys that sort of single themselves out or guys that finger point, it can destroy a locker room. So it's very easy for a good team to lose 2 or 3 in a row, but a bad team will lose 7 in a row because they don't have that positive culture. So I view this Colts team as one with a good culture. And the reason I say that, I have not heard one complaint from any of the receivers that have, just had, from my perspective, limited participation. A lot of those could potentially be a wide receiver number one, but they're all happy. They're all encouraging. I also see signs from this team. You remember when A.D. Mitchell had his mistake against the Rams? What I saw was a team that embraced him, that encouraged him, and said, hey, man, it's okay. You're part of the team. So to me, that was a positive sign that you've got a good culture on this team, so that when the lulls happen, you've got, the people in place to bring you out of that lull. Now, you may face it again this week because you're just so shorthanded. But staying positive is something that doesn't come hard to this team. And the thing they have to still realize is they still have a shot at making the playoffs. They can still make the postseason with this mass unit they got on the field. So if there was a chance, to have some kind of motivation, this is it. And you make your mark by beating the better teams. So there's plenty of incentive for these guys to play well.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with you, Alan. I don't think that the culture is bad here. We've seen bad culture in Indy before, and I know some of those guys are still here. I don't know how much they're a factor in this, but we've seen it before. I mean, 2022, they gave up down the stretch. They've had moments where they've given up, but this year, I've always believed all season that this has been a different team, and I think we get a month here to see how different they are. Look, if you end up just losing these last 4 games because you're just out, because the other teams are talented, that's fine, but leave it all on the field, have the fight, have the motivation, have the determination, bring these games to the wire. I'm willing to forgive a blowout loss at Jacksonville because your quarterback went down. The emotions of that are difficult. It's a difficult thing, but the rest of these games, put up a fight. Don't lay down in these last 4 weeks. Cause like you said, Alan, they still have a shot at the playoffs. It's not like they have a 1% chance either. It's like a 45, 50% chance. Now the models aren't saying anything about the 44-year-old quarterback coming in. It's hard to predict that in there. But again, if you lose, you lose. But let's show some fight. Let's show some energy here, even when they're down to their third or fourth quarterback. But real quick, Alan, the one thing we really got to just close this week out with is I said it yesterday on the crossover, so I'll give you your space to talk about it. But when you are a massive underdog against anybody, right? This can be college football, this could be high school football, and this can be the NFL. The margin for error becomes so much slimmer, right? Everything you have to do needs to be on point. You need to get some bounces to go your way. But I think the biggest thing for me, for the Colts to overcome this potential talent deficit, or just where the Seahawks are at right now with momentum, is just turnovers and special teams. If you're going to upset any team at any level of football, those are the biggest things. If you can swing field position, if you can take the football away, and like you said, what's your turnover quote there, Alan? If 3 times or whatever, you're going to lose?
3 times you should lose, 4 you're going to lose.
Right. So if you can be if you were just going after that football, trying to take that ball away as much as possible, yeah, you might get burned, but you're an underdog. So what if you get burned? Try to take that football away, get into some positive field position, and you can have a chance to win this game. But I struggle to see where they can win this game if they lose those 2 battles, right? You can say that about even games, but especially when you're an underdog, those are 2 margin for errors that you can't afford to lose when you're 14-point underdogs in a game.
Yeah, I'm sort of interested in seeing who they're going to have return punts and kicks because you've got Gold and Doolin out. But right. There's still some folks there. We may even see Josh Downs back returning punts. But we'll just have to wait and see. But the turnover thing is huge. The turnover thing is huge when you're fully stacked and you have your full complement of players. So you really, really got to reduce those turnovers. And the thing about turnovers now is, which is different from when I played, is they actually teach punching the ball out. they teach, where are the pressure points that the ball carrier has so we know where to attack it. And the thing that kind of sucks about carrying the ball is if the helmet hits the ball, I don't care if you have crazy glue on your fingers, that ball is coming out. So ball security is so important. And I know the players on offense understand that. Hopefully the players on defense, because they are outmanned a little bit, maybe they take the chance and go for the ball and create turnovers for Seattle, because that's going to be one of those key factors in them keeping it close.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you're going against Jackson Smith and Jigba. Sam Darnold has been very good this year as well. You're not going to hold them to 10 points on Sunday, like especially without Sauce Gardner, especially without Mooney Ward, especially without DeForest Buckner. You're not going to hold them down. So the next best thing you can do, like if you're going to already give up some points, get that ball out, and we haven't seen the Colts with many of those, like you mentioned, Alan, those like peanut punches. We haven't seen many of them this year from the Colts. I've seen like I've been watching the Los Angeles Rams a little bit, and that Nate Landman dude at linebacker has got like 4 of them this year. Obviously with the Colts back in the early 2020s, we saw Shaquille Leonard just being perfect with that. And even last year, Zaire Franklin, I think, had 6 forced fumbles at linebacker. So if you're going to have a game to make your mark, and this is more so for like Franklin, Jermaine Pratt, any pass rusher that can touch Sam Darnold, make sure you try to get that ball out. Those are going to be vital in this game, because I don't know how much this Colts offense can go 80 yards and score a touchdown. But any offense, young, small, whatever, depleted, can go 10 yards and score 20 yards and score 30 yards and score. Like, make that distance they have to travel a lot shorter, and it helps your team win. So I know we're speaking very coach speak here, but I think when you're an underdog, winning that turnover battle is just always so vital. And then you still need to get some luck and bounces to go your way. But for the Colts, I think in this game, you're not winning unless you win that turnover battle pretty handily.
No doubt. And so you look for a valiant effort by these guys. I think they still go out there believing they can win, because belief is very important when it comes to confidence. But winning that turnover battle would go a long way to giving them a shot at winning.
Yeah, for sure. That's all we have, though, for this week, guys. I know it's been a very, very hectic week with Phillip Rivers coming in here. I'm expecting an announcement sometime tomorrow or Sunday morning on who's going to start. We'll see. Again, we're all kind of anticipating Phillip Rivers, but we will see ultimately what Shane Steichen and the Colts go with. But regardless, the Colts have a game this Sunday. I believe it's at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock if you're on Allen's time there. So a little bit of a later game against arguably the best team in football, with the Colts still having a chance to make the playoffs. And if you told me that before the season, I would have taken it. Even if you told me Phillip Rivers was playing in that game, that would have been a little confusing for me. But aside from that, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. The NFL season's in full swing, so if you're next listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Rolling, gives you a shot of NFL espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at ZachHicks2 on socials. Also want to give a big shout out to all the guests that joined us this week, filling in for Jake, Derek Schultz, Destin Adams, and of course, Alan Pinkett here. You guys were all great this week, and we really appreciate it. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube and check us out on the Colts Squad Show, because that's when we'll be back with you guys. Me, Derek, and Alan will be back with you guys. Colts Squad Show immediately following the Colts game against the Seattle Seahawks.